let's crack on, and then if people want to jump in, they can jump in. So thanks.
Cool.
Really appreciate you spending your time this afternoon. I keep thinking it's a Friday afternoon now, because we used to do these Friday lunch and learns.
Yeah, no.
So it's Saturday. I'm great. I think I know everybody here, which is good. Andrew is with us as well.
Hi, everyone.
Andrew and I have been working together for quite a while on this heart rate variability course. And Andrew is a specialist. He's working with one of the top heart rate variability guys in the world, Dr. Jay Wiles. So Andrew's got lots and lots of information, lots of technical stuff he's put into this course. And we've just been working together and exploring how we can help to build resilience, but how we can get that biofeedback, which actually helps. What I've found, definitely for me and for my clients, is helps with motivation. If somebody can actually see something working in a positive way, it does make a big difference. And I think for me personally, I mean, I remember, it was about 10 years ago now when I first sort of like discovered heart rate variability and understanding a little bit about it. And it really did make a big difference to how I approached my training. It helped me realize, along with the breath work and along with the movement that I was practicing, that it's not all about pushing and forcing. It's about actually building resilience, and then taking that time when you're down regulating, when you're relaxing, that really makes a big difference. It really makes a difference for improvement. So today we're sharing this course with you. So we want to show you around the course. It's a 5-week course or program. What we think is different with this program as opposed to a lot of programs that are out there is that it's hybrid. So it's online, but we also, what we think is really, really important is that sort of like community element as well. We've noticed this. I know some of you are Oxygen Advantage instructors. Some of you are on the Breathe, Balance, Move program. What I've learned is that whole element of community and learning from each other is a massive part. It's a great way to motivate, and it's a great way for us to be accountable to each other. And actually, one of the lessons in the course, or one of the learning lessons, is about social activity and social interaction, because there are studies out there that show actually community and socialization is great for improving heart rate variability as well.
Yeah.
That's what's fantastic about that. So we're going to show you around the course. It's an 8-week course. No, it's not. It's a 5-week course. And with that, you also get 4 live with Andrew and I online catch-ups, chats, coaching sessions as well. And I'm just going to share my screen so you can see how it works. So this should be it. Bear with me 1 second. We'll go through the screen, show you the screen, and then we'll open it up to questions. So hopefully, can you all see there okay, yeah? So this is the modules. You can see the 5 modules here. Week 1 is what we call Learn, and Andrew will explain a little bit more as we go through this in a minute. So I'll just show you the 5 modules, and we'll go through each one.
Cool.
Week 1, you sign up, you get an email, right, this is the start of the course. And we give you all of the sciencey bits and all of the bits that you just want to maybe go and sit down, do 20 minutes learning, making notes and everything. Because we thought if we just throw everything in at the beginning, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, and then you're trying to learn stuff, and then you're trying to practice, it doesn't really work. So we learn first. Week 2 is about observation. So we look at observation, how we measure various things. And then weeks 3 and 4, we go into the practice. So there's quite a lot of practice in there, modulation, and we'll look at foundational stuff, and then we'll look at building on that foundation. And then week 5 is very much, right, what works for you? And I think this is important as well. It's not about this is a program that everybody follows and it works for everyone. You'll find little bits that work for you, what you enjoy doing. And then it's almost like we create a program. You create a program yourself. So we don't do any work. You create the program yourself from what we've shared with you. Yeah, this works for me. And obviously with the online stuff then, with the live online stuff, that's when we help with that sort of like manifestation period. So the first live group session will be in that week 4, when you get to sort of like the week 4 time, before we move on to modulation. I'm going to share the screen for Learn, and I'll just hand you over to Andrew, actually, because Andrew...
Yeah, that's cool. Great. Can we go back and I can just give an overview, a little piece as well, before I dive into that Learn bit, and I can just start... just to kind of go on from what kind of Gray's been speaking about here, and just give everybody a bit of an introduction as to, for those of you that I haven't met yet, kind of who I am and a little bit of my experience with heart rate variability, and then an overview of the kind of course, kind of similar to what Gray said there. But I just love talking about heart rate variability, so any opportunity that I can is a great thing. So for anyone that I haven't met before, my name is Andrew Ritchie, and I am an Oxygen Advantage Master Instructor. I've been working with Gray for quite some time. I've learned so much from him, as I have from Patrick McEwen, and also a chap, Dr. J. Wiles. So Dr. J. Wiles is kind of seen as a international kind of subject matter expert in the field of heart rate variability. So following my Oxygen Advantage training, then I went and done a lot of work with him, probably for maybe about 2.5 years ago. And yeah, the heart rate variability piece I just found for my own training and for my clients has just been so valuable. What Gray was kind of mentioned earlier on, it kind of gives numbers onto something that is very important for us, and that's kind of, stress, essentially, in the nervous system. To put it kind of simply, I guess we could say that. And it can gamify how to modulate your nervous system in real time. And the basis of this course, Gray, can you share the screen and we can just kind of see that bit again? The basis of this course is to give everybody an understanding of how you guys can start doing that too. So whether you're a coach or whether it's just for your own personal interest, we're going to aim to give everybody a really good idea of what heart rate variability is, why it's important, how you can use it for yourself, for your clients, so that you can begin to develop some really good self-awareness and can really self-regulate. It really is very helpful. So just, in that first week, we aim to give everybody an idea of kind of what it is, where does it come from. We really kind of frame it up initially by talking about stress, because this is what we're kind of getting at. And from whether you're a coach or not, an understanding of kind of stress and homeostasis is really key to being able to utilize heart rate variability the best way that you can. So we start off with that piece, because once you've got that there, then the rest of it all begins to make a lot more sense, and you can understand how immensely powerful this can be. So yeah, it's with kind of myself and Gray. We do a kind of introductory kind of video. They're not too long, but they were kind of getting over some of the key kind of foundations initially of heart rate variability, why it's important, about stress, and yeah, that's, you can kind of see is there. We've got after the video piece, then there is. Can you just click into any of the other bits just so people can see?
Yes.
Yeah, we've just got lots of information to basically break down kind of key underpinnings of heart rate variability. We start off with just an overview, and then we begin to dig a little bit deeper. So this initial learning piece will go into like a wealth of detail. And if anyone here is an OA coach, we definitely HRV gets touched on throughout the kind of Oxygen Advantage teaching, but this is going deeper. But it's very complementary to that whole Oxygen Advantage piece. So you can see here, Gray just firing through introductions into the nervous system, parasympathetic, sympathetic, and then the vagus nerve too, because that's very important when we're talking about heart rate variability. So we just aim to give people a really good understanding of what it is and how it can be helpful, and then how to use it in that kind of learning piece. What else have we got there, Gray, in that module? Yeah. Is there anything in module 2 for let me see that one? for the learning piece.
Yeah, so if we go back to week 1, so you get module 2.
Great.
So we've got a little bit about here, another video there. And of course, what are the benefits? What are the benefits of heart rate variability over biofeedback and measuring your heart rate variability? So just the ideas of how it can help rehabilitation, mental cognition, the morbidity and mortality, decrease the risk and progression of conditions like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, respiratory diseases. So all of the reasons why, as Andrew said there, if you're a coach or if you're doing it for yourself, all of the reasons why it's very useful to be able to actually help increase your heart rate variability and have an understanding of how you can do that and why you're actually doing it. Just a moment as well on if you, Andrew was saying about being a coach. Gabriella's on here has just done the September training. So Gabriella, this is the program that you have access to. You will have access to now. We'll get you the link on that, because anybody who does our instructor training, who did it in September up in Scotland last year, who did my November training in London last year, anyone who does my May instructor training in London this year and our September instructor training in Scotland this year, all get this course as an add-on to that training. We also give this course as well as an add-on to our retreats that we're doing. So we've got a retreat coming up in Scotland in March, and also possible, hasn't even been organised yet, but possible Ibiza retreat as well. So this is part of a lot of our offering. You just get that added onto your onto what you're doing. Did you want to go through a little bit?
Yeah, I can keep going. Yeah, if we see again, maybe once I start talking about HRV, can go all kinds of directions here. But the idea here is that we'll give you the information that you need to understand what it is, why it's important, where it comes from, because I think a lot of people have, quite a few people have heard about heart rate variability, but there's a lot of misinformation out there about it. And the information that you've got here is really coming from the really well. Oh, someone's coming in. You got that one, Gray?
Yeah.
Let Barbara in. From the kind of top minds in the world on this one. And then we kind of highlight research throughout it as well. So that's the learning bit. And then what I think, because I've done a few courses on HRV, and what I think makes this one different is that, yeah, we do the learning bit, you understand it all, and but after that, we look at kind of teaching you how to really go about starting to do it for yourself and use it yourself, so how you begin to observe, first of all, because this is the kind of way that we've split this into kind of, I guess, 3 kind of main kind of sort of sections. We've got this learning piece, and then we look at observing, because observing HRV is a really good starting point. It's what a lot of people do with Whoop and with Aura. HRV for training is another app that you can use. Hanu and Elite, they're great as well. We can do a little bit more with them than we can with some of the other stuff. But observing your HRV and getting an understanding of your numbers, so that you can begin to see how certain things within your environment, sleep, diet, all these kind of things are impacting your nervous system. So we give you a good understanding of that kind of piece. Have you got anything on the observe piece, Gray?
On the observing piece, so that's in our second week. So what will happen is, as you're coming towards the end of the first week, so it's about 5 days after you've signed up, we found that this is the best way to do it. It helps motivation rather than just saying, we'll just work through it as you want to. You will get a link saying, right, week 2, we've got 3 lessons now to begin week 2 to get you ready for the observation week. Because the second week is literally you just noticing, writing things down, journaling things, not changing anything, very much awareness really in this observation week. So the lessons that you'll have on an observation week is personal journal, and then a video. And we're going to add more to this as well. At the minute, we've got Elite HRV, which is what we've used, which, as Andrew was talking about there, is a great app, but we're not necessarily promoting any particular apps or anything like that. Elite HRV we know works, we know it's cost effective. As Andrew said there, it works with Hanu, so that's another great app. There's really good stuff going on there. And we'll look at Hanu and maybe HRV for training as well, which is quite a really simple app to use there. But as I say, we're not saying you have to work with a particular app. But I'll just show you this little journaling, which is quite nice. I know a lot of apps will do stuff like this, but we wanted to put something together that you could use and then maybe adapt. It's here. So we've created this Google Sheet, and you can download it as a Google Sheet if you use Google Drive, or you can download it as a Microsoft Excel document, or if you like good old-fashioned writing, you can download a PDF and just write it yourself if people prefer just to jot things down. But we think this is really important to spend some time just noting things down. So the first thing you do is we do like this little morning readiness, which is what Elite HRV does anyway. It asks you to take your morning readiness. And you will take a morning readiness, whether it's with Elite HRV or whether you have an Aura Ring or a Whoop, and you'll just kick in here, you'll just put in here, right, my RMSSD, and maybe Andrew will explain a little bit more about what that is in a moment. Say it's 50, so you put 50 in there. What we're also asking you to do is check your resting heart rate. So again, if you use wearables, then that might give you a resting heart rate overnight. But it's very, very simple, is you can just literally take your pulse. So take your resting heart rate. So say my resting heart rate is 45. And then for those of you familiar with Oxygen Advantage, we will ask you to take your BOLT score. If you are familiar with Buteyko, the BOLT score is called the controlled pause or the comfortable pause. And I tend to use that, those of you who know have worked with me, that I tend to use that a little bit more often than BOLT, because it gives an idea of it's not a how long can you hold the breath. Again, there'll be a little lesson on this if you aren't used to the BOLT score. If you don't know what these things are, there is a lesson on there. I know some of you are coaches and you understand what I'm talking about. You'll have an awareness of what I'm talking about. But say your BOLT score is 35. What we're also asking you to key in here is what time did I wake up? So I woke up at 8 p.m. That was a late night. 8 a.m. And then just making a note of any exercise that you did. So, I did a 3-mile run this morning. And environment as well, because we again thinking this is important. I did a 3-mile run outdoors this morning. I did a 3-mile run on the treadmill this morning. I spent most of my day outdoors. I spent most of my day in the office. So putting any sort of like environmental factors in there. Also, as I mentioned at the beginning, is a social activity. Went out with friends, had a really good time, got drunk, or had a night in with my partner, or I had a quiet night in on my own. So putting in there just little notes. And this is on in the program as well. It will show you. I'll talk you through how to do this. We'll talk you through how to do this. But this is for you. We don't have to share this with anybody. But it just gives you an idea of sort of like your day, what's happened throughout your day, what time you had a meal, what time you went to bed. So you went to bed at, 10 p.m. And then what you'll find is the next day, if you then woke up at 6 a.m., it gives you your hour's sleep there. So by the time you start to fill all of this information in, and I won't go through it all, loads and loads and loads, but I'll just stick this RMSSD and I'll just stick some few numbers down here. These are totally irrelevant numbers, but what you get to see is that you start to get, if you move across, you get this little chart, you'll get this little graph. So you'll start to see, oh look, my BOLT score dropped, my resting heart rate went up, my heart rate variability went down. So you'll start to see these little patterns working through this. I know loads of apps do that. So we could say to you, do it on an app, and that's absolutely fine. But we wanted to give you something where you could go, oh look, well, I ate at 8 o'clock, and all of this happened with my resting heart rate, my heart rate variability, my BOLT score. When I ate at 6 o'clock, that made a big difference. So it's just giving you those sort of like little guidelines, little awareness. And then we put the 3 weeks in there, so you can use this as a 3-week program. And of course, you can use this moving forward. You can take this away. So one other thing about the course is you've got unlimited access to it. You haven't only got that 5 weeks access to it. It's unlimited access. And then we stuck in here as well this little training zone thing, so we can look at how old you are, what your resting heart rate is, and this is all calculations based on Brian McKenzie's calculations. It's not something that we've just made up. It's the Borg scale, which is an internationally renowned, internationally recognised effort level scale. And then we've tied in with this as well our breathing gears, how we work. Andrew and I work with breathing gears. If you're in gear 1, it's easy, effortless nasal breathing. As you're in gear 2, it's still comfortable. But there's that little sheet there that you can have access to and play around with, basically. So that's your week 2, that whole observation element. And then obviously when we move on week 3, week 4 and onwards, you can start then putting in some additional stuff, some of the learning stuff that we're doing, some of the practices that we're suggesting that you do, to see how then that affects your heart rate variability. So there we're modulating, there we're taking different variables and then seeing how that affects your nervous system. Breathing is the easy one in a way, because it's very obvious that that's linked to heart rate. But again, what Andrew and I have found is that over the time we've been practicing this, it's like, oh, this changes it and that changes it. It's not as simple as just doing resonance breathing, resonance frequency, or various breathing exercises. It's a whole host of other things that are going on as well that can have an effect.
Yeah. I think to just talk to the sheet that you have there and just putting in the information, it puts context to the numbers, right? Because the reality here is that numbers on their own, you can get kind of bogged down with the data bit, but it's putting the context to these numbers so you can begin to become a little bit more aware. And then maybe in however long time, a year's time, or however long maybe for you, you don't necessarily need to be checking the numbers all the time because you've got so much more self-awareness. But initially, getting that information in is key, because what can happen is that people are just looking at the numbers and they don't really necessarily mean anything. It's about how you use that data and how you can understand what that data is telling you. And by putting in the things like, or seeing the difference that happens to the numbers when we do change time of eating, more sleep, what does exercise do? It begins to put context to the data so that then the data becomes powerful, because otherwise it's just data. I mean, that is all that it really is. So it's very important to make sure that we contextualize that data so it's valuable for us, and we aim to be able to show people how to do that. And the observing piece is that's the kind of first port of call. Get a baseline. RMSSD was the number that we've got in the sheet there. RMSSD is one of the kind of metrics that gets more commonly used around HRV, because there's a lot of different numbers. So we aim to clear that up for people, because that can be quite confusing and quite daunting sometimes when you see all these numbers. And also, like when you hear that, oh, I've got a low number here, that must mean that I am super, like unhealthy is maybe not the right word. My well-being is very low because I've got a low RMSSD. It's not necessarily true at all. It's about putting context to the numbers and understanding where your baseline is, and seeing observing how different things affect your baseline is what the real important, one of the important pieces are, certainly with regards to observation, because I think there's a lot of misinformation regarding some of these data points. And if they're low, people get into a panic because they think, oh, my HRV is really low, I'm going to have a heart attack tomorrow because I've got an RMSSD of 10 or 15, But when those numbers aren't contextualized, then they can get misunderstood. So we aim to clear all that up. And in that first week, you get an understanding of where your baseline is, where you're at, whatever the number is, and how different things affect that, so that you can begin to build this picture in your head. And I think eating times, exercise, sleep, like kind of social engagement, all of these things are quite important there. So it just kind of gives a bit of data to that. And initially we just observe to see kind of where we're at, and then we get into the more of the modulation piece. With the observing bit too, I put up like videos so that people can see what to do, so how to observe. I was using Elite HRV for a very, very long time. So that's kind of what, as an entry level piece, that's pretty good. Hanu's also good. HRV for training's good. People can use Aura, you can use Whoop. It doesn't necessarily matter. And I think this course isn't pointing at one particular product. It's just giving people an overriding idea of how to use whatever data they have with whatever they have. But we've got some videos on there for the stuff that we've used, because that's kind of what we do. So that's the observe bit. Modulation there, unless there's anything else on observing, Gray. We can talk about modulation now.
No, I think we've covered all of that. I've just filled in a few numbers, so you can most probably just see there. Again, these are just numbers I've just made up, but you can see how then you can get an idea of what's going on, because you've got that little chart there that's saying there's your sleep, there's your RMSSD, there's your resting heart rate. So you'll see things, how interconnected they are. And I like what you say there about actually, because it can just be a load of numbers, but that whole...
Oh yeah, big time. People turn off to that because it's, it doesn't mean anything a lot of the time for people, but it will do once you've kind of learned what it means and contextualize it so it's valuable for you. And we can really help with that. The modulation piece is a really good bit, because, and I think this is where this course can kind of differ from quite a few others as well, because we're giving you some certain pieces that we know and that is very well researched as to how to modulate HRV. So what does it mean by modulation? It means that how do we, in kind of real time, modulate our nervous system? Increase parasympathetic tone is kind of what we're looking at modulating there in real time with various different things. And breath for sure is one of the top ways to be able to do that. But over the kind of past few years, when we've really been, Gray and I've just been exploring this, and that's why it's so exciting to be delivering this kind of piece now to everybody else, to get other explorers on board, hopefully. There's other things that you can do. Qigong is a good one. And I mean, temperature is another one, breath, obviously, exercise. We go into a variety of different pieces here and give you kind of instructional videos as to things that you can try to learn new ways that you can modulate your nervous system in real time to increase parasympathetic tone. That just is so good for us, and we can just show you a few different things that we've found that work for us. Being out in nature, grounded, seems to be doing something very, very interesting. So that's something that we talk to too. And I think being outside is very, very helpful for this piece. So we get into a little bit of that, but we're not just doing resonance breathing, because that is very commonly regarded as one of the best ways to increase HRV. And yeah, it is, but there's other stuff that we can do too. There's other stuff that we can explore. So we aim to show you that. So you've got a few different ways of being able to modulate your nervous system, and then you find the ones that you like. Anything else on this?
No, I was just going to say, so you can see how we get like the little lessons. They're short. We're not doing like 4-hour lessons. There'll be like a few minutes for these really simple movements, and it'll just give you a basic, this is how you do this movement. There'll be a little bit of a voiceover. Here we are in Scotland last year. Gabriella recognised this just before you arrived. So we were doing this video, all the video in there. So you'll just get some simple movement, Qigong flow or Qigong style movements, as Andrew says. What the type of things that we've found can really make a difference, because you're combining, particularly with these type of movements, you're combining that movement and breath we're grounded as well. So there's there's all of these elements to take into consideration. So very simple little videos like that. And the idea is almost like see what works for you. Gillian's just asked a question about morning readiness recordings. Are you noting exercises planned or completed? Now do that exact day. So so if it was today, I would just say I got up at 6 o'clock. My morning readiness was blah, 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 blah. I then did a run, came back. So you work through the day. It's the day after where it's only the difference when you put the night sleep time, bedtime, and morning time that then goes back to give you the hours before. So you do chronologically, is that right way? You work through the day. You don't put what you've got planned, you put what you've done, so that you can see the next morning. The morning readiness is going to be responding to what you did the day before. Does that make sense? Am I right on that one? Yes.
That's about right. Yeah.
The day after, can it really? Brilliant. Yeah, so that was just giving you a little idea of the videos there. And as you can see, there's loads of different things here, different videos, and then just little bits and pieces on social activity. There's a couple of audios that we've put in there, like a breath awareness audio, which is quite nice because not everybody wants to listen to videos or watch videos. You want to listen to some audios as well. So, and then in the second week, as Andrew said there, we're just going a little bit more into some more things that are hormetic stress. So looking at how you can apply stress to your nervous system to help build resilience. And I think, again, this is one of the key things, is that really taking your time to build the foundations before you then stress the system. From my point of view, from an exercise point of view, we're told to go and exercise, but we're not told what type of exercise to do. Get fit and exercise. And the majority of people do too much, or they stress their body too much to start off with exercise along with everything else. So that's why we want to really focus on that foundational element first, and then build resilience. The stuff that we do in OA about holding the breath holds, building tolerance to carbon dioxide, temperature. This is again what we do a lot in this retreat in Scotland, and we do this in the instructor training in Scotland as well. Is that hot and cold therapy and how that benefits the nervous system. And then some of the breath work like box breathing, which is a little bit different, subtly different to the resonance frequency breathing. Physiological sigh, if you know of Andrew Huberman, the physiological sigh, and the 4-7-8 breath, which are a little bit more active in terms of a breathing practice. And then just a few more little Qigong movements that can help balance that out. There also is, and actually I haven't got this section completely finished on here yet, so this is in the week 3, so I've got 2 weeks to do it, or 3 weeks to do it. We've got a whole section on spine and energizing the spine. So if you practice the Qigong with us, you know about the simple sort of like movements in terms of spine health and spine rotation and flexion and extension. And we've just gone into a little bit more detail in that, in sort of like from a Qigong perspective, center of gravity, lower dantian, where you're moving the energy from. So that's quite a nice little section that I'm just literally just finishing off on here as well on that build section. Anything else, Andrew, from?
Yeah, no, I think that just to kind of, finishing touches on the kind of modulate piece, we want you to be able to feel that you're have an understanding of different practices that you can use, and how to also like measure if they're having a difference on your nervous system and what's happening there. So there'll be just instructional videos for all of that piece. This is all the stuff that we're doing quite regularly, and we've seen quite a big impact for ourselves and also for our clients. So we just want to be passing that over to anybody that's interested in exploring this piece with us. And I think another kind of I guess something that differentiates this course from a lot of other kind of pieces is these group calls where we can all kind of go over different stuff that you found works for you, and then that can flag up something, and then you can get a nugget there. So this kind of community piece of where we're all talking and exploring these pieces together is something that I'm really excited about, because there's just been, once you start to get into it, it becomes quite good fun when you start gamifying this piece and finding out all this bit, and to be able to share it with each other is something I'm really, really excited about. The grounding bit's very interesting. There's something going on there, whatever it may be, and just the opportunity to be able to share that with everyone is exciting. So yeah, that's kind of all I had in that bit.
Brilliant. I think it'd be quite nice to do a couple of little practices if anybody wants to do that. But if you've got any questions before we do that, please feel free to jump in and ask any questions. You can pop it in the chat, or if there's only a small group, you can just unmute and shout at us.
Yeah, I was just going to say, first of all, thank you both for putting this together. This is just what I was waiting for. It's amazing. So really, it's super exciting. I had a question, and I just know that obviously we have access to see all these videos and maybe PDFs, etc., whatever text is there. You mentioned private Zoom calls with Andrew and you, Gray. The other question I had was basically, is there going to be a Zoom call like this where you also have classes, where everybody can bring in their own inputs and questions, etc.?
Yeah, so there'll be 4 catch-ups like this, and not just catch-ups, sort of we'll have an element of coaching in those 4 sessions as well. So I know, again, as you're an OA coach, we do a catch-up, which is a catch-up with the OA group, but we'll have a little element of coaching in this as well with those 4 catch-ups. And there is this is a special bonus just for this weekend. I know you're slightly different, Gabriella, because you've done the OA training, but we are doing a special bonus of a 30-minute one-to-one with Andrew or myself if you sign up this weekend. So we have to do that. We have to give out that little bonus to get people signing up this weekend. But yeah, that will be added onto it. But the 4 catch-up sessions will be group sessions. Now that might be a small group, it might be a slightly bigger group, but anybody who can jump in on those catch-up sessions, then you will be invited along to those. And as you say, sharing what's working for you, looking at that whole manifestation piece, looking at how you can create habits how you can create and incorporate this stuff into your daily life, rather than it interrupting your daily life. An OA coach said that very simply, like that, Georgie, was like, incorporate rather than interrupt. And I think that's a good way of putting it. Because if we start saying you've got to do 40 minutes breath work every morning and 20 minutes Qigong, it's not going to work. I can't do that. I don't have the time to do that every day. So it's just about how you can incorporate it, creating those habits, those good habits, and finding what works for you. There's a lot of different things here, but you might find there's a couple of things that work for you for a few weeks. Do you know what I mean? I tend to find that you find some basic movements, some basic exercises that make you feel good for a few weeks, and then, right, I'm going to mix it up a bit. I'm going to change things a little bit. So it is very much empowering you to take control of what you're doing, having that awareness and understanding of why you're doing it and how you're doing it. Does that answer your question?
Perfect. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else got any questions? Something that I've been playing around with, I've been doing some corporate work, and we've been doing the 4-7-8 breath. And the 4-7-8 breath is very simple. It means you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7 at the top, and you breathe out for 8. And what that is doing is, as you breathe in, heart rate is increasing. And then as you hold, the heart rate starts to slow down. And then as you breathe out, the heart rate slows down. So you've got 7, and an 8, what's that, 15? Get my maths right. 7 and an 8 of actually really bringing the heart rate down regulating the nervous system. And one of the things that is a measure of heart rate variability is respiratory sinus arrhythmia. And what is nice about this little practice is generally, not all the time, and if people have just had lunch, the metabolism is slightly different. This tends to work a little bit more in the evening or a little bit more if you wake up in the middle of the night. But generally what you can do is if you feel your pulse, you can feel the heart rate. And I like this as a sort of like a real awareness practice. And as I say, with this corporate stuff that I've been doing, when you start talking about breath work, people are like, oh, it's all a bit woo-woo and everything. But when you say, actually, notice you can change your heart rate. You can slow your heart rate down. So if you're happy, let's have a little practice of that. I'll just talk you through it. First thing to do is, and this is probably the most difficult part of it, find your pulse, see if you're alive. Now, if you go on your left hand and just find down the outside bit there of the left wrist, you can tend to feel the pulse. Or Missy's doing there, you can do it in the neck. Just watch the neck, because if you press too much, you can change. I think, I might be wrong on this, I think you can change your blood pressure slightly. So just feeling it without actually strangling yourself, please. But just finding your pulse. And we'll do it 3 times. As I say, it doesn't always work, but it's good when you can feel it. So if you've all got your pulse, and then I'll talk you through it. So just nice and stable at the minute, feet in contact with the ground if you're sitting, tall through the spine. And just taking a moment just to relax the face a little bit, relax the brow, relax the eye sockets, soften and relax the eyes. Relax the face. And just bringing awareness to your pulse. And then I'll count for you. So just wherever you are in your normal breath cycle, just breathing out. We'll keep it all in and out through the nose for now. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go again, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then just breathe easy. Anybody notice anything of the heart rate slowing, the pulse slowing slightly? It doesn't always happen. And it's a little bit complicated when you're thinking of your pulse and thinking of your breath. Anybody shouting?
Gray, could you use an oximeter to get the pulse rate on this?
Yeah, you could do. Yeah, you could put a on there. You could put a heart rate strap on there, so you could you could use obviously a wearable to check your pulse rate.
Okay.
Whether it just slows like it's actually not. I like to feel it, which I think is good because then you are physically feeling a sensation. You are really connecting mind to body. We're going to do that one more time. Did anybody else feel it? Anybody else notice it? Nobody really noticed it? Yes, Rich got it. This time, what I would like you to do is we're going to take a slightly fuller breath. So you're going to take a full, fill the lungs a little bit more, breathe in, nice and full, really good hold at the top, and I want you to breathe out through the mouth. And by doing that, is just resting the tip of the tongue lightly on the roof of the mouth, and it's almost like a whoosh sound. So it's breathing in, hold, and it's... So have in mind letting go, have in mind cleansing and clearing. So it's like a big, nice, full breath in, holding, letting go. And let's have a little go with that. So you can feel your pulse again. If you don't want to feel your pulse, if that feels a little bit awkward, if you just think, I just want that experience of cleansing and clearing, just do a cleansing and clearing experience. So get yourself comfortable, nice and tall through the spine. And we'll do it all together. So wherever you are in your current cycle, just breathing out. And then nice full breath in, nice calm full breath in. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And really just let go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, breath in, nice and full. Hold at the top, relax into the hold, soften into the hold. And then let go. And then one more time, nice full breath in, calm full breath in. Extend the spine as you breathe in. Hold. Relax into that hold. Enjoy the stillness. And then just completely let go and relax. And then breathing easy. Just letting the breath settle. Good. Any difference? Shout if anybody's got any questions or any comments or any thoughts on that little practice.
Great. I found that a lot easier to manage, the whooshing breath out rather than try to control the 8 out.
Yeah, it's a really, anyway. I think that's a nice point. I think when we're looking from the point of view of oxygen advantage, obviously we don't want to be over breathing, so we don't want to breathe out more carbon dioxide than we're actually making in the body. So think of that, we're only doing that 3 times. You wouldn't do it more than 5 times. So that's not saying we need to breathe like that all of the time. So I think that's a really good point you make there, is that actually if you do just take a few nice full breaths, and also that intention of just going to let go and relax, can make a big difference. But also quite rightly, as Richard, as you say there, is when you exhale through the mouth, but it's controlled, so it's not like I'm exhaling through the mouth. You actually, it's much more easy to activate the diaphragm and use the diaphragm for an active exhale, which can help relax your body as well. So I just like that connection between maybe just a few fuller breaths, not over breathing, not getting rid of too much CO2 because we don't want to blow out more than we're making. But that's a really nice way. It's almost like that's a little bit of stressor before you go into calm. And for me personally, that's what really helps me then when I do the resonance frequency breathing, when you just go into that light, soft breathing. It's a really good way of boosting your heart rate variability, because you really can feel that difference, to let you settle into that resonance frequency breathing. So just something there, just wanted to share with you and see how you feel. So have a little play around with that. And as I say, that we'll talk about that on the course as well. Any other questions before we finish?
Quick one on the 4-7-8, Craig. Are you using that technique as, like a spot technique to reduce stress? Would you use that as a recovery also? How would you use that? What settings would you use it?
I would definitely use it as, I like that word spot technique, because I've always struggled to find a way of saying the difference between that and a resonance frequency. So I like that spot technique. It is almost like, it's like a sigh. It's like a big sigh. Now, obviously, if we're overdoing sighing, then it's a sign of dysfunctional breathing, but we do need that inhale, exhale, physiological sigh as well. So I would use it at that spot technique to release stress. I wouldn't necessarily use, actually, you could use it as a recovery, because what you can do with recovery is you can breathe in and again get rid of just one or two nice long breaths, because if you're training and you have built up carbon dioxide, obviously you want to offload the excess, but we don't want to offload too much. So I would do breath in, exhale, but actually a hold at the top of the breath is quite nice as well when you're going into recovery. But I think the key for me to think about in recovery is never get to the point where you've lost control of your breath. And when you do need to take those fuller breaths, it is only 2 or 3 of them. It's not trying to catch up with your breath. So yeah, anything like the 4-7-8, the physiological sigh, I think are really good for recovery. But the 4-7-8, if you research it a little bit, there's a lot of focus on that and sleep. And I do use it if I wake up early in the morning and you need that little bit extra sleep. I can almost guarantee that will help to calm me, and I'll be able to just have that really nice end of sleep, REM sleep state. What I've also noticed with that is that if I've had a little bit of inflammation recently, if you have a little bit of inflammation, if your system's not doing too well, I notice that my heart rate doesn't drop as well. So again, that really just plays into that respiratory sinus arrhythmia. So I can feel that sensation, feel the difference.
I think it's an important one, and for just that taking the pulse while we do it to highlight the relationship between what breathing does to the heart can be such a powerful thing to show to people who don't know that piece. You know, when you feel it for yourself, then you feel it for yourself, and it can be quite a powerful one to get people to kind of understand that relationship. And that is really what a very, very basic kind of angle on heart rate variability, or example of heart rate variability. We just go into much, much more detail, and with the kit that we're able to have. But yeah, we are just looking at the relationship between what our breath and our heart are doing, and different ways that we can observe that, and the ways that we can modulate that to make a really immense leaps, both with regards to kind of physical and mental health. The mindfulness piece is probably something that we haven't gone into a lot of detail on in this particular call, but being mindful when we go to do measure, observe, modulate is massive. There's a very big role here for mindfulness, and the link that can have with your heart rate variability is quite amazing. There's the chap who taught me a lot, the Dr. J. Wells, who's recently been posting some stuff up with Hanu. And I mean, you could do it with Elite, you could do it with various things, but just a busy mind, negative thinking will have a role on the nervous system quite dramatically. So it opens up this whole that whole piece too, because it's a very, the mind and the mental state that we are in has a very, very big role to play with regards to heart rate variability and kind of sympathetic tone, and the chronic stress that so many people are going through all the time here. So heart rate variability just does give us some data points on that one that we can play around with and we can explore. But it's really interesting when we start to open that mindfulness piece with it as well. And for people that aren't used to that bit, then, or that need maybe some numbers to kind of get them in, then it can be quite a nice one from a coaching piece, but also just from an interesting point for ourselves to play around with and explore.
Yeah, I think, again, that's a really important point. And if you think what we just did there with that 4, 7, 8, I just see Missy and Gillian have noticed the difference on that second time. And that, in a way, is just that mindfulness of, right, I'm actually letting go. I'm actually cleansing and clearing. Mm-hmm. So that mind-body connection, that intention of what you're doing. If you're stressed out doing resonance frequency, it's not going to work.
That can happen. People like staring at the phone, trying to change it all the time. And if you're trying to do it, try to do it, as opposed to just allow it to be and be more mindful. That can have a big impact. But we can play around with it. You know, that's the beauty of all this stuff. Sorry, I'm jumping in on you there, Craig.
No, I was just going to say, because Barbara's here as well, who teaches math, and I love the breathing into the heart and positive emotional state, negative emotional state. You can be in sympathetic but with a positive emotional state, or you can be in a sympathetic state with a negative emotional state, and parasympathetic as well. So it's like, I can't be bothered, I'm bored. Whereas you can be parasympathetic and really relaxed and restoring. But I think that's so important. Again, that's a massive link into how our nervous system responds.
Yeah, and we aim to highlight that, right? So it's like we talk like a car. We use the analogy, is that right? About like a car. So like the sympathetic drive, accelerator, parasympathetic brake. But it's not a case of one being on and one being off. It's continually being able to use them when you want to use them, how you want to use them, where you want to use them, and just that control to be able to hit the brake when you need to hit the brake, and hit the accelerator, and just have it always kind of working the way that you want it to as best you can. So we aim to kind of show that as best we can.
Brilliant. Any more questions before we finish? Because we've gone right up to the hour there.
Gray, I was very late today. So is there a replay on this?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We've recorded it, so I'll send a link with the replay so you can watch the beginning of it. Or if you want to watch it all again, you can watch it all again.
Okay.
Yes, certainly. There will be a replay. I'll just share my screen. So if you are interested in jumping onto the program, and there's a link here. I've put a link in the chat. That's the link. And I'll obviously send an email out. It's very simple. Just a landing page there. It's all what we've talked about here. And it just gives you that option to jump onto the course. The cost of the course is $297. So that's £297. As I say, you get that 5-week online program. You get those 4 group chats. You get a private Facebook group as well if people like Facebook. And then, as I say, it is just for this weekend only. If you sign up this weekend, you get you might want to sign up after this weekend if you don't want a one-to-one with Andrew or myself. But if you sign up this weekend, then you get a 30-minute one-to-one with Andrew and myself. And as I've said, if you've done the instructor trainings, or if you're doing our upcoming instructor trainings, if you're coming to Scotland, then this is whole part of your package for the program. So that's it. Any questions on that or before we finish?
Just one more quick question. So you just said if we were part of the training, or we're gonna be, then this package is included. So should I just email you and say I'm interested?
Oh no, definitely. Yeah, you will get it. I'll send you a link, so you'll get that activated, and then you can just jump on and start working through the program.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good. That's good. One sign up. Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, for all the work. I know you put so much work into this, and
it's a pleasure.
He's such an expert in HRV, so it's an actual pleasure. It's great to be working with someone with so much knowledge and a good approach as well.
Cool. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. Take care.
You also.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.